Is the dialogue in Cyberpunk 2077 a beautiful example of stylized writing done really well, or is it a cringy mess that makes you feel like you're having an interaction with an edgy chatbot that was trained on Reddit? That's a conversation that I'd like to have here in this video because I just started playing Cyberpunk 2077 for the first time about a week ago, and I'm having fun with the game. I like the core gameplay loop of the gunplay, the tech, the hacking. I enjoy the stuff that I get to do in the game, but I feel like that every time I interact with an NPC and there's written dialogue on screen, I just cringe because it feels so corny and stilted and unnatural. It's awkward. It feels like it's edgy humor made for millennial Redditors. I don't really mean that as an insult, but that's what it feels like. And that's not really a label that everybody would want to have. And so it just pulls me out of the game a little bit. V might say something like, "This ain't preem in the game biz." It seems like most of the conversations that I have play out as if characters are limited in how many words they're allowed to say. For example, "need to ask a question" is something V might say, where a more natural way of communicating that would be, "I need to ask you a question." I noticed really early on that this is how CD Projekt Red is writing slang in this game, and it feels cheap because you see it in every single conversation. It's not every line, but it is every single conversation that you have with an NPC, that sentences are truncated, and that is what they rely on every single time. So it feels kind of cheap and not very creative, that like this is the one size fits all formula and approach that we're going to use for everybody, and this is how everybody uses slang. I don't really like that very much. I understand that this style of writing is heavily inspired by Neuromancer, but I just don't think that CD Projekt Red did a very good job of implementing that tone into this game. Because a lot of the lines that are delivered by voice actors in this game feel like that they didn't have a producer in the booth with them when they were recording those lines, because the lines come off as flat, or there's like missing emotion in certain scenes that would normally have a lot of emotion, or there's missing emphasis placed on words because the voice actor doesn't seem to understand the setting or the context that the line's being delivered in. That seems like a little thing, but it does kind of take me out of the whole world when I'm supposed to be V in this dark, dystopian, futuristic setting. And a great example of who I'm talking about here is Dexter DeShawn, early on in the game, the dude who looks like Rick Ross. Every line that I can remember from Dexter was just so cool and monotone, like, "I don't really have a care in the world, and this is just how I talk." But because of the way that he paced his sentences and his overall demeanor as a voice actor, I think it missed out on a lot of the weight that some of those lines were supposed to have, and the meaning and the message behind them was lost. I don't really like the shortened sentence approach to creating slang, or like a colloquial language that they're building in this world, but I'm not opposed to novel slang usage or creating a type of language that's different than what we would use now, or that feels off from the way that we speak English in 2026. I just think CD Projekt Red did it really bad in this game. If you're going to truncate certain sentences, or you're going to speak in a certain way, just do it all the time. That's what was really weird to me, was it was inconsistent. And that made the writing feel cheap, because it was almost as if the writers understood that if we do this too much, it's going to feel bad. But we can sprinkle this in just enough to have like a little dash of cool edginess that we can throw into the script here and there, and people will get it. He's a cool guy because of the way that he speaks. And I'm just like, come on. Unfortunately, the dialogue feels like that it was written by a bunch of Polish guys who don't understand US urban culture in America, and they wrote it in Polish. And then later on, another team of people translated it back into English. So like there's this language and cultural barrier that's in between truly capturing what a poverty-stricken slum, street-living tech kid would experience growing up in this world. I think that if somehow you could go back in time and give Rockstar the same exact script that CD Projekt Red used for all of their written dialogue in the game, Rockstar could do a significantly better job at delivering conversational slang language that felt real. And maybe they don't change a single word in the script, but they work with their voice actors and they instruct them how to deliver these lines and make them feel more authentic. Or they change like 2% of the language, and that would be just enough to make it feel like people are actually cool. I sound really negative in this video because that's what this whole video is about. It's about highlighting something that I think missed the mark in this game. But none of these things are a deal breaker to me because I'm having so much fun with other parts of the game. I really do like this game. It's fun. It's not quite as good as The Witcher 3 for me. I think that's pretty obvious to me, but it's still fun. However, if the core gameplay loop and the tech and the hacking and the brain dancing and all the stuff that you play in this game wasn't as good as it was, I don't think that I could power through the dialogue and the narrative alone to get me to credits. I don't think that would work. This is just my opinion. What do you guys think?